Hey guys, so I'm sure many of you are, struggling with how to find like a balance in my life because the show, while it's great and it has made me far more informed, I'm researching and reading all these articles. Many of them are like frustrating and scary and oh my God, what the hell's happening with the world? Between Trump's crazy corporate greed and his racism and the all of this stuff, and we're like in a perpetual state of war and the economy, and then a Democratic Party that is just getting corporate money and doesn't care about us. He just, as a guy that's, you know, went to public school, I have a college degree from a state college, and, you know, I guess, middle class, and I feel like I'm getting squeezed at every turn, and the system is designed to screw me over. Um, I feel like I can get pretty angry and pretty frustrated, and then every day you read like Trump just, deregulated this thing that'll ruin your life, and he's giving money to these awful people, and there's a war that he's going to start, and it's like, what do we do? And how do we find this balance? So there was this article in the Huffington Post, A Zen Master's Advice on Coping with Trump. And it was written back in February, and it was written by Joe Confino, and it's part of Huffington Post's hashtag Love Takes Action series. Hippies. So it's Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Vietnamese monk. He's 90 years old. He knew Dr. King and is basically, they go into, and I'll put the link for this article below because there's also an interview with some of the monks that are in his monastery in France, and what they have to say is pretty cool. And they reference sort of how Dr. King and the March on Selma used nonviolence and how that works. And they talk about sometimes nonviolence or non-action, doing nothing, is really powerful, which is sort of, for me, it definitely like, that seems counterproductive. I'm like, well, there's a problem. We got to go do something. We got to fix it. We got to, like, that's such a thing. And I think it's an American thing too. We're such a goal-oriented society. And I'm, doing YouTube and podcasts is a very do-it-yourself thing. Just figure it out, get online and do it. And it's hard to do nothing sometimes. I think Americans, having traveled the world, in South America and in Europe and stuff, even the Australians, they take a month of holiday, a month of vacation, and Americans are criticized. Even when we got to go on vacation, we have to have all these activities planned. Like, we can't even just like chill and do nothing. So how do we deal with this in the face of what seems pretty scary? I mean, America seems like it could be plunged into a civil war and World War III and whatever else. So he talks about mindfulness must be engaged. Now, I say this because I've studied a lot of Buddhism, but I don't know that I can say I'm a Buddhist. I was raised Catholic, and nope, don't like that religion. Not a big fan of organized religion. So Buddhism, of all the religions I've studied, kind of makes the most sense to me because it seems like it's more just like kind of a way of life versus a like religion that has you have to do this and do this sign and you go out this thing on this day and all this other stuff, all these rules, these man-made rules. But I don't know that I can call myself a Buddhist because, I don't know, I'm a pretty emotional guy. I can get pretty mad. I don't like that about myself, that I get that mad. But also, I haven't really studied Buddha. I haven't like gone to a monastery and shaved my head for a month, which sounds like it'd be kind of a cool thing to do. I'd like to do that. So, but I've read a fair amount. I've read some books from the Dalai Lama and some other books on Buddhism, and I studied some martial arts that would refer to Buddhism. So he talks about mindfulness must be engaged. He writes in his book, At Home in the World, once we see that something needs to be done, we must take action. Seeing and action go together. Otherwise, what is the point in seeing? Nonviolence is not a set of techniques that you can learn with your intellect. Nonviolent action arises from the compassion, lucidity, and understanding you have within. Drawing from his own experience in seeking an end to the Vietnam War, Nhat Hanh writes that activists must learn to look after themselves if they are to be effective. If we don't maintain a balance between our work and the nourishment we need, we won't be very successful. The practice of walking meditation, mindful breathing, allowing our body and mind to rest, and getting in touch with the refreshing and healing elements inside and outside us is crucial to our survival. I agree with that, you know. And I'll be honest, I can't sit here and suddenly start talking, I'm all, oh, Mr. Buddhist, because then I hear about, you know, I did a video on the Black Bloc, and I'm sort of torn on that, because part of me's like, oh, we should be like this, nonviolent. And then part of me's like, well, maybe you got to just punch Nazis in the face. I don't know. If they are just crazy Nazis that want to hurt the world, all they're going to respect is punching in the facing. That's a horrible sentence, but I think you see my point. But I don't know, maybe that's just my base nature saying that. And underneath most anger is fear, right? So there's fear that you won't be able to pay your bills, or fear that they're going to come take away your livelihood or your home or whatever. And I don't know. So it's, and how do you do this in your daily life when you get in traffic and then someone honks and flips you off? And, you know, that happened to me the other day, and I just got, all of a sudden I got really mad. This guy flipped me off, fuck you. And I'm just like, and afterwards I was like, why did I get so mad? Why did I let this bother me so much? Why couldn't I wish I could just sort of like, all right, fine, you're in a hurry, you're being a dick, you're rude, and I'm sorry for you for being rude. Like, why do I have to make that a thing? Why do I want this sort of instant justice? Maybe it's part of the American, you know, you grow up watching movies where the bad guy, you know, the bad guy gets killed at the end of the movie and the crowd cheers. That's happened so many times in movies I've seen. Or the gunfighter, you know, and all this stuff. And I don't know. But here's another thing. Some of the other monks that were interviewed in his Plum Village monastery in France, if we could be strong in ourselves, then we could offer a resistance that is nonviolent. But that means that we ourselves are at a place where we can have that recognition and we can offer that to another. And that is a great, great source of love, and having the other feel they're being recognized and listened to and embraced. She says that those who are passionate about taking actions and learn from nonviolent approach of the civil rights movement, and they go into the whole thing with Selma, which is, you know, that's what Dr. King was all about. Non-action sometimes is very powerful, he says. Sometimes we underestimate someone sitting very calm, very solid, and not reacting, and that they can touch a place of peace, a place of love, a place of non-discrimination. That is not inaction. Yeah, it's interesting. It goes on to say we have the wrong perception that we are separate from the other. So in a way, Trump is a product of a certain way of being in this world, so it is very easy to have him as a scapegoat. But if we look closely, we have elements of Trump in us, and it is helpful to have time to reflect on that. And that's a good point. I mean, I've said it on this show, Trump didn't come out of nowhere. He's just sort of the most egregious version of Americans, but we all have that sort of, look at me, I'm an American, look at all my stuff, my cool stuff. You know, while the rest of the world is, you know, living in squalor, we're talking about how great our lives are and all our toys and gadgets and computers and all this other stuff. And that's a good point. It's a good point. And I'm glad I found this article. And I had it for a while and wasn't sure if I wanted to read it, because I'm kind of, you know, I'm mad and I'm the political vigilante. And, but maybe I need to be a little reflective on this for myself, because, you know, it's okay to be mad about what's going on in the world, but I don't know. I'm trying to find some balance, I guess. Maybe I'm sort of meandering just because this is so confronting. It's so confrontational to sort of part of who I am. Part of me is this, like, I do yoga and I surf, and the other part of me is this, like, Irish kid from Chicago that played football and studies martial arts and is just like, you want to go? Like, I don't know. That seems very ridiculous. So I guess I wish I had more of the Buddhist monk in me. So I'd love to know what you guys think. Write your comments below. Let's see, like, how you're finding balance in your life. Maybe you're not. Maybe you need some balance. But if you are finding balance, let me know what you do. I try to go to the beach and stuff like that and go outside. Nature is where I get some balance, and I try to meditate every day, but it's hard. So Patreon links below. Support independent media so I can read about hippies like this. and like it and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. I really enjoy doing this.